Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to call to order the business meeting for the Mount Vernon City School District Board of Education. Today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have roll call, please?
Trustee Brown,
Present.
Trustee Kelly, Trustee McDonough, Trustee Middleton, Trustee Peterson, Trustee Scott, Trustee White, VP Mitchell, and President Maribel.
Present. Is Trustee Trustee White is visiting with us virtually?
She's not on yet. She's
Not yet,
supposed to be yet, but she did
Oh.
not log on yet.
Okay,
But if she
and
does-
Vice President Mitchell will be late, so he is excused for now, but he will be arriving later this evening. Thank you. At this time, we would like to call for the Treasurer's Financial Report by our Treasurer, Mr. Joe Lynn.
Sure, I can do it. Good evening, trustees, Mount Vernon, and community. So for the treasurer's report, we'll start with our cash position. So our cash position in April decreased by about $8 million as the disbursements exceeded our receipts. This is normal activity reflective of this time of the year when our revenue is less than prior months. And we'll continue to have this pattern as we go into the following months. In fact, expenditures will increase as we have balloon payments and other invoices coming in. The district maintains a significantly stronger cash position versus the prior year. As you can see, we have a $2 million more variance versus the prior year compared to where we were last month. We were about 18 million last month. And then in the cash position, we do have about 339K in outstanding checks. In terms of the cash flow, this is what I was speaking to earlier. As you can see from the chart, in the month of May, we will have relatively flat, but it could be a little bit more on the expenditure. But in June, we are expecting to have a steep drop in our cash position. This past month, the revenue was largely driven by state aid, sales tax, and some recurring revenues of various types. The projection indicates that we're still in a strong positive cash position throughout the end of the year, and that we have sufficient liquidity for all of our obligations. So, and we will be expecting some additional state aid in the month of May and June. In terms of where we are in terms of the budget, as you can see, we had expenditures of almost $20 million, and we were able to reduce our purchase order commitments by about 11 million. That puts us a net where our available appropriations is now standing at 13.6 million. If just to give you some reference, last month we were at 23.7 million in terms of available balance. So you could see the effect of us paying things off now starting to decrease in terms of our available funds. So just as we have available funds, just keep that in mind that that'll continue to decrease as we continue to pay things off. In terms of the fund transfers, it was a busy month in the month of April. We had 27.8 million. There's a second me somewhere. We had 27.8 million that was transferred. A big portion of this was the movements that I did to remove the negative balance. So that was previously presented to the board. And you can see that there's some movement in the our grants and special aids fund, not significant amount. Okay. That will be it. Any questions?
Do we have any questions? None? Dr. Strickland, you have a statement?
Well, while Jolyn is up there, I just wanted to take a moment and congratulate him on his Postmaster's Advanced Certificate. Yeah. So, he is officially a school district business leader, so congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments for the report? Okay. We will now hear the superintendent's May report.
Great evening, President Marable, board trustees, students, families, staff, and the greater Mount Vernon community. This is the superintendent's report for the month of May. Next slide. Yeah. First and foremost, I want to extend my gratitude and appreciation for all who came out to vote on the budget for the 2026-2027 school year. Your support is immensely important, not only for the district, but for the future of our students. The success of our students and the district would not be possible without you. Thank you. If you have not been able to vote yet, polls are open until 9 p.m., so you still have a chance. Next slide. I am ecstatic to announce that the Federation of Teachers voted to ratify a new contract for teachers, teaching assistants, and security monitors. Last week, the Board of Education unanimously voted to approve the contracts. This is a tremendous win for our district, and more importantly, our children. Thank you to both negotiation teams for their tireless efforts during this time. A huge thank you to all of our teachers, teaching assistants, and security monitors for their dedication to our students and their patience throughout this long process. Speaking of teachers, Teacher Appreciation Week was this month. Thank you again to all of our teachers for everything you do. Our teachers are the heart of Mount Vernon. They keep the jewels in Mount Vernon's jewel box shining. Thank you for your passion, patience, and making a difference each and every day. Your hard work does not go unnoticed. Next slide. Last week, 4 retiring principals from the district were honored at City Hall to celebrate their years of dedication, leadership, and services to students and their families. The evening served as a heartfelt tribute to these educators, whose work helped shape the lives of countless Mount Vernon children and whose legacies will continue to inspire the community for years to come. Congratulations to Rebecca Jones of Lincoln School, Danielle Davis Morrow of Nelson Mandela, Dr. Hosea Zollicoffer School, Dr. Natasha Hunter McGregor of Graham School, and Carol Quinones Dixon of Traphagen School. I think that warrants a round of applause. The Mount Vernon City School District Special Education PTA will host a meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, May 20th at 5:30. Sorry, next slide. at 5:30 at Graham School. Join to discuss important topics, share ideas, and help guide the future of SEPTA for the benefit of all students and families. Your voice makes a difference. SEPTA is also seeking nominations for board members for the upcoming school year. Thank you to all SEPTA for all the support you show our district and the important work you all do to advocate for our students and families. Next slide. This month, our high schools celebrated the class of 2026 and their future endeavors during Decision Day. From blue-collar jobs to universities, our seniors are set to do great things. I couldn't be more proud of their milestone accomplishments. Their future is in their hands, and I know they will go far. Congratulations to the class of 2026. In the second edition of Shining On to Graduation, we are highlighting Zior Williams, a senior at Mount Vernon STEAM Academy. Zior plans to enter a career in law after graduation from STEAM. The Mount Vernon City School District wishes her the best of luck. You can watch the video highlighting Mount Vernon STEAM senior Zior Williams on our social media and website now. Earlier this month, the Career and Technical Education Department held their second annual Entrepreneurship Business Expo Fair. Here, I got to see firsthand what students have been learning throughout the year in their class, including the 4 Ps of marketing. I was extremely impressed with all the students and their business ideas, some of which are in effect. Watch out, Mount Vernon. We have small businesses coming to you in the near future. Right. The Mount Vernon Basics program has been participating in events all throughout the spring, engaging families in a plethora of activities for our youngest learners. The last couple events in the series will be held on Saturday, June 6th at Graham School and Wednesday, June 10th at Pennington School. Please visit the website for more information and to sign up. Congratulations to all of our students who participated in the Grimes School inaugural Spelling Bee. Events such as the school spelling bee help expose students to a wider range of words and their definitions while building cognitive and social skills. I look forward to seeing this initiative continue at our schools. Last week, I recognized our outstanding nurses and secretaries during my monthly superintendent celebration. They do so much for our schools, and I cannot thank them enough for the impact each and every single one of them has on our school communities. The draft of the district-wide safety plan was added to our website, and students and staff and community stakeholders have an opportunity to submit their comments on it. The plan was added to the site last week, and it will be available for public comment until June 12th. The collaboration between the community, city law enforcement officials, and Board of Trustees on the safety of our students is so important, so we appreciate your feedback. You can find the form to submit feedback on the pop-up on the homepage of our site or by following the link on the screen. The district would also like your feedback on our food services. Our food services survey will be open until this Friday. Your feedback will help us continue making improvements to the dining experience of our students. I wanted to also provide a friendly reminder that the district was required to reinstate this Friday, May 22nd, as a school day to meet state requirements for minimum days of school. The day will be an in-person half day for students and all staff. I apologize again on behalf of Mother Nature for any inconvenience to our families, staff, and students. As public servants, financial transparency is greatly important to our school district. We want our community to be certain that we are spending taxpayer money responsibly to educate our youth. To that end, our transparency and audits page has been updated to include at least the last 3 years of audits and financial reports. All financial reports can also be found on board docs from the meeting they were voted on. We will continue to keep this page updated as new audits and reports are completed and approved by the board. As mentioned, we take financial stewardship very seriously, so we welcome the Office of the State Comptroller's audit focusing on financial management, and we have reissued an RFP into the school lunch fund. The deficit that surfaced in the lunch fund in the 2025 fiscal year audit prompted action on the current administration's part to understand what exactly happened. Findings will be presented to the board and posted on our transparency and audits page when a vendor is selected and the audit is complete. And now, I will head to the podium for additional. Just a moment. All right. Hello, testing. All right, great. New York State School Board Association is proud to present the Level 1 Board Achievement Award to Trustee Erica Peterson of the Mount Vernon City School District through NYSBA's Board of Excellence Recognition Program, conferring more than 75 points for your ongoing association, professional development, and/or accepting additional leadership roles in 2026. Please join me in getting your certificate of recognition. So trustees, forgive me, I did make changes to board docs, because I didn't want them to see this.
Oh my gosh, and I've been outside all day in my election gear, but I just wanted to thank you because actually from being just like a mom and a resident coming to meetings, seeing President Marable and Trustee McDonough, I remember seeing when they got just recognized, just like, oh, great job by the former superintendent about your studies with NYSBA. And so when I became a trustee, one of my main goals was to make sure, not only for myself to educate myself, but for the community to make sure I educated myself as much as possible. And you two inspired me. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, look at you.
I'm looking like summer camp
Don't get her
1992.
pants.
May I just add, Dr. Strickland, congratulations, Trustee Peterson. We know that you are thorough, that you have gone to almost every training, I believe, that NYSBA has put out there, that you have been so diligent, and congratulations. And I would just encourage each and every trustee to continue their education in terms of what the role of a board trustee is and what the expectations are. So I would just say congratulations to you. Very proud of you and excited for you.
And I did take the time to make paper copies of the one brochure that I had for all of you. Next, New York State School Boards Association is proud to present the Level 2 Board Achievement Award to Trustee Chris McDonough of the Mount Vernon City School District through NYSBA's Board of Excellence Recognition Program, conferring more than 150 points for your ongoing association, professional development, and accepting additional leadership roles. Here is your certificate of recognition. Of course, of course. Yes.
I want to say thanks, and I encourage people to get involved civically and take it seriously. It is a complicated role. There's a lot to learn, so keep trying. Thanks.
And thank you for your commitment, Trustee McDonough.
And last but not least, New York State School Boards Association is proud to present the Level 3 Board Achievement Award to Trustee Donna Marable of the Mount Vernon School District through NYSBA's Board of Excellence Recognition Program, conferring more than 250 points for your ongoing association, professional development, and/or accepting additional leadership roles. She will receive a free one-day event voucher, certificate of recognition, and a commemorative padfolio. Congratulations. You got all the good. Yeah, okay. And trustees, that concludes my report for May. You're welcome.
Thank you to NYSBA for encouraging us to continue our education, because we are a board of education, and education is important. And so, again, I encourage each and every one of you to continue to learn more and more and more about what it is. And even after your term finishes on the board, as a resident, as a community member, you still want to know what it is that the board does and what they're doing, and you will be the most informed. There used to be a saying by one of those companies called Sims, our informed something like that. The most informed one is our best customer or something. So anyway, so just continue, and congratulations again to everyone tonight. Okay. At this time, we will have communication from the public. If we please note that we have on our agenda the qualifications or the recommendations when you are making public comments, that we do not receive public comments about personnel. So we just ask that you caution and temper your comments, and no attacks on individuals. Clerk James, do we have any communication from the public?
No communication from the public this evening.
Oh, okay, thank you, thank you. So we will move on to our, that later. Okay. So we will now have the consent agenda, which will be items 4.2 through 6.2. These are items that we actually reviewed during our work session on May the 5th. So if there aren't any questions, I will ask for a vote for the consent agenda for items 4.2 through 6.2.
Can I have a motion, please?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we will approve the consent agenda for items 4.2 through 6.2.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain?
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Thank you. There are items that have been submitted after the work session, and they are quite a few. They are items 7.1 through 7.23. And because there are a few, I'm going to go capture them in buckets of 5, just to make sure that everyone is actually make sure that everyone has an opportunity to, if they have a question on any of them, that they're able to do that. So let's take a look at items 7.1 through 7.5. Are there any questions before we call for a motion? We'll give you a moment. And it appears that our human resources items go through 7.12. So I'm going to ask, are there any questions on 7.6 through 7.12? We will move forward with items 7.13 through 7.18. If there are any questions?
Question.
Okay, which one?
On 7.14, just to double check for the teacher's rate, that I thought it was 46 an hour, not 44.
Yep. So just, this resolution was actually put in prior to the actual change in the contract.
Okay.
However, we will be reflecting the new rate
Okay.
as we need to.
Okay.
Yes.
So 7.12 will be updated to reflect the change.
And actually, if we can amend it on the floor, all of those amounts should be changed from $44 to $46 per hour as per the new contract. And I will resubmit the updates in terms of the amounts in Friday's letter. or
Okay.
the
So we
letter
will
this
ask the
week.
clerk to update the resolutions that reflect the change in the rates based on the contract, the new contract. And those items will be adjusted before the minutes are published. Okay. Thank you. We will move forward with items 7.19 through 7.23. Are there any questions on any of those items? Please note that the Board of Education meeting schedule is 7.23. That will be the schedule we will abide by for 2026, 2027. Are there any questions on 7.20 in terms of the emergency repair at Graham School from November 2024? Dr. Strickland, if you could elaborate on that, please. Seven point two zero. 7.20.
So when the ceiling actually collapsed at the Graham School prior to the start of the school year, and we had to instantly go and do repairs, that funding came from a different source because it was emergency. And what we're doing on the record is correcting actually where those funds were transferred and then taken so that it's the correct the correct fund and not
Coding?
the correct correct account code. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on 7.1 through 7.23? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
First and seconded, items 7.1 through 7.3 to be authorized.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Motion. Okay, I'm sorry.
Abstain?
Motion carries. Thank you. We have some policies that need to be updated per our NISBA guidelines. So what I'm going to ask the board to do tonight is we are going to read those adjustments. They are minor changes, minor typos, minor corrections, and there are several policies, and I'm going to ask if we have volunteers for board members to actually read them so that we don't tax our legal counsel to do so. And number one is 8.1 is an authorization to renumber 2 policies as per the NISBA guidelines. So I'd like to have a motion on that first, and then we will move to the reading of the policies. So may I have a motion to authorize the renumbering of the policies per NISBA guidelines?
Second.
It's been first and seconded that we authorize to renumber 2 policies as per NISBA guidelines. Clerk James, do you have those 2 policy numbers? Is that the 3310?
Yes.
Okay.
3430, school safety and educational climate is reporting to 5710, and 3140 flag display is now going to be 4311.1.
Okay, if we can just add those numbers to that particular line item in the agenda so that we're clear as to which 2 policies we're referring to. Thank you.
All in favor? Any opposed? Abstain?
Motion carries. Thank you. So at this time, we will have the first reading for policies 5710. Do we have? So it's recommended that we actually do, that I let you know all of them that we're reading. I don't want people to get confused. So I would like to call them one at a time, but I would like to have a motion for the first reading of all the policies, and then I will call them one by one as we read them so that you know exactly which policies we are reading. So I need a motion for the first reading for policies 5710, 4311.1, 101, 4321.12, 8113, 8635, 3310, which is now 1120, 1925, 4321.1, 4321.5, 4321.13, 4321. May I have a motion? Do I have a second? It's been moved and properly second that we have the first reading for policies as listed. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
All in favor? Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries for our first readings.
Okay. So the first reading will be 5710, and I guess do we have a volunteer for that?
I'll
If
do it.
not,
I'll do it.
You want to do
I'll
that
do
one?
5710.
Thank you. It's for school safety and educational climate, and it is 5710
All right.
for the record.
So section 5,000 students, titled School Safety and Education Climate, SSEC reporting, code 5710, first reading, adopted July 12, 2006, last revised July 3rd, 2023. School Safety and Educational Climate, SSEC reporting. The Board of Education is committed to promoting and maintaining the safety of all school students, staff, and visitors. The board is also committed to maintaining a school environment that is free from harassment, bullying, and discrimination. Consistent with these commitments and in accordance with the state law regulation, the district will submit an annual report to the Commission of Education regarding violent and disruptive incidents and material incidents of harassment, bullying, and discrimination as part of the New York State Education Department's School Safety and Educational Climate, SSEC summary data collection. In addition, the board will use this data to assess its school safety and educational climate and, where appropriate, identify and take steps to improve the safety, security, and well-being of its student, staff, and visitors. Reporting requirements. Each building, principal, or designee is responsible for preparing on a regular basis a report of all violent and disruptive incidents and material incidents of harassment, bullying, discrimination, and that occur on school grounds, at school functions, or at school-sponsored events, forwarding the report to the superintendent of schools. The superintendent or designee is responsible for compiling the reports received from the building principals into an annual report and submitting the report to the commissioner. The summary report will contain all information required by law and will be filed by the commissioner on or before the date set by the commissioner. The superintendent will also present this summary to the board at its first meeting following the filing of the report with the commissioner. The building's principal or their designee will complete and submit the attached individual incident report, IIR, form for each and every violent and disruptive incident. In addition, where required, the building principal or their designee will also complete and submit a DASA, D-A-S-A, incident form and a DASA investigation form in accordance with District DASA Policy 0115. Additionally, building principals are required to provide a regular report on data and trends related to harassment, bullying, and or discrimination to the superintendent at least during each school year. The district is responsible for assuring that copies of such SSEC report, both individually and summary reports, are retained at the school until the youngest person involved in a report incident is 27 years old. Individual incident report forms will not be kept in students' cumulative folders nor sent to the next school or the district that the student attends. Confidentiality. Any violent or disruptive incident or harassment, bullying, discrimination report prepared in accordance with law will be available for inspection by the State Education Department upon request. All names and other personally identified information included in any report or confidential and must not be disclosed to any person for use by any person for purposes other than reporting purposes in Education Law, Section 2802, except as otherwise authorized by law. The public should note that there's some cross-references and references within each policy. We're not going to read all those references. Just know that they're there for your availability for research. That is policy 5710.
Thank you. We will move on to the first reading of display of the flag 4311.1. Do we have a volunteer? If not, I can read it. You want to read?
I'll do it
Okay.
until I run dry.
We'll have our in-house counsel read that.
So that's code 4311.1. This is the first reading. It's required. The Board of Education believes that the flag of the United States is a symbol of the values of our nation, the ideals embedded in our Constitution, and the spirit that should emanate our district. The district shall purchase a United States flag, flag staff, and the necessary appliances for its display upon or near every school building. There shall be a flag on display in every assembly room of every school. The flag shall be flown at full or half staff pursuant to law. In addition, the flag may be flown at half staff for the commemorate the death of present or former board member, present employee or student. Consistent with national and state law and regulations and this policy, the superintendent of school shall develop rules and regulations for the proper custody, care, and display of the flag. Once again, there's references for further research and a note. That
Okay.
is policy 4311.1.
Thank you. Any questions? We will move on to the reading of gender-neutral single occupancy bathrooms, which is policy number 101.
Okay, so gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms, code 0101, required gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms. That's the title. All single occupancy bathrooms Facilities in the district are designated as gender neutral. Signs designating gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms must be posted on the wall next to the door of the bathroom facility. A single occupancy bathroom is, as defined in Public Buildings Law, Section 145D, as a bathroom intended for use by no more than one occupant at a time or for the family or assisted use, and which has a door for entry into and egress from the bathroom that may be locked by the occupant to ensure privacy. The superintendent of schools or designee is directed to post appropriate signage to implement this policy consistent with applicable laws. Handbooks, directional signs, memos, safety plans, and maps will also be updated as necessary. Once again, it has reference for further support and resources for the public to read. That's the reading of 0101.
Thank you. Any questions? I will ask Trustee McDonough if he will read policy 4321.1, which is for timeout and physical restraint for all students.
Yes. Okay, title Timeout and Physical Restraint, all students. This policy applies to all students, whether or not they are students with disabilities. The Board of Education recognizes that sometimes students exhibit challenging behaviors that impede learning and pose concern for the physical safety of themselves or others. The board is required by state law and state regulations to adopt a policy that establishes administrative practices and procedures on the use of timeout and physical restraint to address such challenging behaviors. As required by state regulation, the district will utilize positive, proactive, evidence and research-based strategies through a multi-tiered system of supports to reduce the occurrence of challenging behaviors, eliminate the need for the use of a timeout and physical restraint, and improve school climate and the safety of all students. Such strategies will include intervention and prevention procedures and de-escalation techniques. However, these strategies may not always be effective in keeping the school environment safe. Pursuant to state law, Regulation 8, New York Code Rules of Regulations 19.5, timeout and physical restraint will not be used as discipline or punishment, retaliation, or as a substitute for positive, proactive intervention strategies that are designed to change, replace, modify, or eliminate a target behavior. Timeout and physical restraint may only be used when, one, other less restrictive and intrusive interventions and de-escalation techniques would not prevent imminent danger or serious physical harm to the student or others. Two, there is no known medical contraindication to its use on the student. And three, school staff using such interventions have been trained in its safe and appropriate application as required by state regulations. For the purposes of this policy and regulation, the term parent refers to parents and persons in parental relationships. The superintendent is directed to establish administrative regulations to implement this policy. C8 NYCRR 19.5D. 1. Precipitating factors and time limitations. Generally, timeout and physical restraint will be used when students exhibit behaviors that put them and others at risk of physical injury. Timeout and physical restraint will be used for the least amount of time necessary, generally only until the student has de-escalated, can return to their educational program, and no longer poses a risk of injury to themselves or others. 2. Timeout for students with disabilities pursuant to a behavior intervention plan. In addition to situations posing an immediate concern for the physical safety of a student or others as described in this policy and administration regulation, timeout may be used for students with disabilities in conjunction with a behavior intervention plan, BIP, as part of the student's individualized education plan, IEP, as permitted by state regulation 8 NYCRR 200.22 and 8 NYCRR 200.22C. 3. Staff training. The district will provide annual training to staff on the use of timeout and physical restraint as required by state regulations and outlined further in the accompanying administrative regulation as stated in State Regulation 8 NYCRR 19.5 D7. 4. Information provided to parents. As required by state regulations, the district will provide this policy and accompanying administrative regulation to the parents of students for whom timeout and physical restraint has been used. See State Regulations 8 NYCRR 19.5D 8IG. 5, parent notification of timeout or restraint. The building principal or designee will notify parents on the same day that timeout or physical restraint is used on a student, including a timeout used in conjunction with the student's BIP, behavior intervention plan. The notification will offer the parent the opportunity to meet regarding the incident. Parents will also be provided with a copy of the documentation of the incident within 3 school days of the use of timeout or physical restraint. If the parent cannot be contacted after making reasonable attempts, the principal will record the attempts made to contact the parent. In the case of students with disabilities, the principal will report such attempts to the student's Committee on Preschool Special Education or Committee on Special Education. See State Regulations 8 NYCRR 19.5 D3 and D8 and State Education Law 44029. 6, data collection to monitor patterns. As required by state regulations, the district will document each incident of the use of timeout, including those used in conjunction with a behavior intervention plan and physical restraint, debrief following each incident of timeout and physical restraint, and review its documentation to monitor patterns of timeout and physical restraint. See State Regulations 8 NYCRR 19.5 D4, D5, and D6. 7, prohibited actions. Students may not be placed in a locked room or space in a room where the student cannot be continuously observed and supervised by school staff. Students may not be placed in a prone restraint, a physical or mechanical restraint, while the student is in a face-down position. Additionally, district teachers, administrators, officers, employees, or agents may not use corporal punishment, mechanical restraint, or other aversive interventions, or seclusion, which differs from timeout, against the student as defined in state regulations. State regulations include school resource officers in the term agent, except when a student is under arrest and handcuffs are necessary for the safety of the student and others. See 8 NYCRR 19.5B, 8C, and D8I. 8, annual reporting. District staff must report all allegations of corporal punishment, mechanical restraint, and other aversive interventions, prone physical restraint, or seclusion to the superintendent. The superintendent or designee will investigate the allegations and determine whether they are substantiated or unsubstantiated, and will compile the reports annually. The district will submit a report to the State Education Department on a form and at a time prescribed by the Commissioner of Education on the use of timeout and physical restraint, as well as substantiated and unsubstantiated allegations of the use of corporal punishment, mechanical restraint, and other aversive interventions, prone physical restraint, and seclusion. See State Regulations 8 NYCRR 19.5E. 9, public availability and posting of policy. This policy and accompanying administrative regulation will be made publicly available for review at the district administrative offices at each school building and posted on the district's website. See State Regulation 8 NYCRR 19.5D 8.2.
Thank you, Trustee McDonough. Any questions? We'll move on to policy number 8113, extreme heat condition days. Do I have a volunteer? If you want to read it? Okay. Trustee Peterson?
Okay. Code 8113. Oh, there we go. What was this? Yes, okay. Let's see. All right, Code 8113, title Extreme Heat Condition Days. As required by Education Law, Section 409-N, the Board of Education adopts this policy to address the health and safety of students and employees on extreme heat condition days. Extreme heat condition days are defined by law as when occupiable educational and support services spaces are 82 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. Under the law, support services spaces do not include kitchen areas used in the preparation of food for the consumption by students. The law requires room temperature to be measured at a shaded location 3 feet above the floor near the center of the room. Air conditioners, where available, may also be used to keep temperatures from reaching 82 degrees or to lower the temperature once it does. Evaporative cooling techniques may be feasible in some situations. Actions to be taken at 82 degrees. When the temperature of an occupiable educational or support service space reaches 82 degrees Fahrenheit, the district will take actions to relieve heat-related discomfort consistent with fire and building codes, including but not limited to the following. 1. Turning off the overhead lights. 2. Opening classroom doors and windows to increase circulation. 3. Pulling down shades or blinds. 4. Turning on fans. 5. Turning off unused electronics that produce heat and not utilizing electronic equipment to the extent practicable. And 6. Providing water breaks. The superintendent of schools, director of facilities, and building principals will determine which actions to take, when to take them, and in what order, and who will take them, consistent with applicable collective bargaining agreements. Such actions must be taken in accordance with any applicable fire and building codes as well as the district-wide and school building safety plans. On days when the outside temperature is expected to reach at least 82 degrees, the district may take the actions listed above early in the day or before school starts, when the temperature is lower. The superintendent and director of facilities will develop strategies to cool the district's occupiable educational and support services spaces during the day. The district will also remind students and their families to dress appropriately for the weather. This policy does not preclude air conditioning from being used pursuant to an individualized education program, Section 504 plan, or documented medical needs. Actions to be taken at 88 degrees. Students and staff will be removed from educational and support services spaces when the temperature reaches 88 degrees Fahrenheit, when practicable. The superintendent will direct building principals to evacuate the space, including but not limited to the following. 1. Move students and staff to cooler locations, or 2. Close school early and send students and staff home according to the district's early closing protocols. Where no other measures can be taken, the superintendent may determine it is necessary to close school early and send students and staff home according to the district protocols. Additionally, on days when the outside temperature is expected to be high enough that temperatures in occupiable educational or support service spaces are likely to reach 88 degrees, even with the heat mitigation measures taken, the superintendent is authorized to close schools entirely in accordance with the required minimum instructional time. During exams, if the temperature reaches 88 degrees in spaces where exams are being administered, students and staff will be evacuated from the exam room, and testing will resume at a time and place when it is safe to do so. On exam days, when the outside temperature is expected to be high enough that the temperatures in spaces where exams are being administered are likely to reach 88 degrees, even with the heat mitigation measures taken, the district will attempt to find alternate locations to administer exams. Optional paragraphs. The superintendent will consider the anticipated number of extreme heat condition days when adopting or adjusting the school calendar, consistent with collective bargaining agreements. Cross-reference 4765, online distance and remote learning, reference education law, sections 409-9, 2801-A, adoption date, month, day, 2026.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson. Any questions? I will ask Trustee Scott to read policy 8635, information and data privacy, security breach, and notification.
Code 8635, status first reading. The Board of Education acknowledges the heightened concern regarding the rise in identity theft and the need for secure networks and prompt notification when security breaches occur. The Board adopts the National Institute for Standards and Technology Cybersecurity Framework Version 2, NIST CSF, for data security and protection. The Director of Technology or Data Protection Officer is responsible for ensuring the district's systems follow NIST CSF and adopt technologies, safeguards, and practices which align with it. This will include an assessment of the district's current cybersecurity state, their target future cybersecurity state, opportunities for improvement, progress towards a target state, and communication about cybersecurity risk. It is the policy of the Mount Vernon MVCSD to comply with legal and regulatory requirements governing the collection, retention, dissemination, protection, and destruction of information by, from, and as part of the MVCSD data programs. 2, to maintain a comprehensive data privacy and security program designed to satisfy statutory and regulatory obligations, enable and assure core services, and fully support the safety and security of the MVCSD data programs. 3, to protect personally identifiable information and sensitive and confidential information, private data, from unauthorized use or disclosure. 4, to address the adherence of its vendors with federal, state, and MVCSD requirements in its vendor agreements involving or accessing private data. 5, to train its users who share a measure of responsibility for protecting the MVCSD data programs. And 6, to communicate its required data security and privacy responsibilities and the consequences of non-compliance to its users. The board will designate a data protection officer to be responsible for the implementation of the policies and procedures required in Education Law 2D and its accompanying regulations, and to serve as the point of contact for data security and privacy for the district. Optional language. The appointment will be made at the annual organizational meeting. The board directs the superintendent of schools, in accordance with appropriate business and technology personnel, and the data protection officer, where applicable, to establish regulations which address the protections of personal identifiable information of student and teachers principal under Educational Law 2D and Part 121 of the Commissioner of Education. The protections of private information under State Technology Law 208 and the New York Shield Act, and procedures to notify persons affected by breaches or unauthorized access of protected information. I, student and teacher principal, personally identifiable information under Educational Law 2D. A, general provisions. The policy applies to the Mount Vernon City School District employees and to independent contractors, interns, volunteers / users, and third-party contractors who receive or have access to MVCSD data programs. This policy encompasses, and the MVCSD data programs include all systems, automated and manual, including systems managed or hosted by third parties on behalf of MVCSD, and it applies to all data and information, regardless of the form or format, which is created or used in support of the activities of MVCSD. This policy shall be published on the MVCSD website, and notice of its existence shall be provided to all employees and other users. PII, as applied to student data, is as defined in Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, Policy 5500, which includes certain types of information that could identify a student, and is listed in the accompanying regulation 8635-R. PII, as applied to teacher and principal data, means results of annual professional performance reviews that identify the individual teachers and principals, which are confidential under Educational Law 3012-C and 3012-D, except where required to be disclosed under state law and regulations. The Data Protection Officer or Director of Technology will see that every use and disclosure of personal identifiable information, PII, by the district benefits students and the district. Example, improve academic achievement, empower parents and students with information, and or advance efficient and effective school operations. However, PII will not be included in public reports or other documents. The district will protect the confidentiality of student and teacher principal PII while stored or transferred using industry standard safeguards and best practices such as encryption, firewalls, and passwords. The district will monitor its data systems, develop incident response plans, limit access to PII to district employees and third-party contractors who need such access to fulfill their professional responsibilities or contractual obligations, and destroy PII when it's no longer needed. Certain federal laws and regulations provide additional rights regarding confidentiality of and access to student records, as well as permitted disclosures without consent, which are addressed in Policy and Regulation 5500, Student Records. Data privacy. Number 1, laws such as the Family Educational Rights Privacy Act, FERPA, New York State Educational Law 2D, and other state or federal laws establish baseline parameters for what is permissible when sharing certain private data. 2, Private data must be only used in accordance with applicable law and regulations and MVCSD policies to ensure it is protected from unauthorized use and/or disclosure. 3, the data protection officer and applicable staff that manage the use of private data will, together with the district leaders at the direction of the superintendent or designee, determine on a case-by-case basis whether a proposed use of elements of private data would benefit students and/or educational agencies, and to ensure that personally identifiable information is not included in public reports or other public documents or otherwise publicly disclosed in violation of law. 4, no private data shall be shared with third parties without written agreement that complies with state and federal laws. No private data will be provided to third parties unless it's permitted by state and federal laws and regulation. Any third-party contracts relating to private data must include provisions required by state and federal laws and regulations. 5, the identity of all individuals requesting private data of a student, even where they claim to be a parent and/or persons in parental relationships with, or the students themselves, is subject to authentication in accordance with the applicable law and MVCSD policies and procedures. 6, it is MVCSD's policy to abide by, ensure, and where MVCSD's responsibility to provide all protections in respect of private data of students afforded to parents and persons in parental relationships and students themselves where applicable. To the extent required under the Family Educational Right and Privacy Act, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and the federal regulations implementing such statutes. Therefore, MVCSD shall provide that its contracts require that the confidentiality of private data, including teacher and principal APPR data, be maintained in accordance with federal and state law and this policy. 7, contracts with third parties that will receive or have access to private data must ensure the confidentiality of data is maintained in accordance with state and federal laws and regulations of this policy. 8, to the extent private data includes personal health or medical data, such data shall be retained, managed, and disclosed in all respects in accordance with the applicable provisions of HIPAA and other laws and regulations relating to such data. Under no circumstances will the district sell PII. It will not disclose PII for any marketing or commercial purpose, facilitate its use or disclosure by any other party for any marketing or commercial purpose, or permit another party to do so. Further, the district will take steps to minimize the collection, processing, and transmission of PII. Except as required by law in the case of enrollment data, the district will not report the following student data to the state education department: juvenile delinquency records, criminal records, medical and health records, and student biometric information. The district has created and adopted a Parents' Bill of Rights for Data Privacy and Security, see Exhibit 8635-E. It has published on the district's website at www.mountvernon.csd.org and can be requested from the district's clerk. The Parents' Bill of Rights will include that student PII cannot be sold or released for any commercial purposes. Parents, guardians have the right to inspect and review the complete contents of their child's education record. State and federal laws protect the confidentiality of PII, and that safeguards such as encryption, firewalls, and passwords will be in place when data is stored or transferred. A complete list of all student data elements collected by the state is available for public viewing and with the web address or mailing address for doing so. And parents, guardians have the right to have complaints about possible breaches of student data address and the contact information to direct those complaints. For each contract with a third party, contractors that receive PII, the Parents' Bill of Rights will include the following supplemental information will include: the exclusive purposes for which the PII will be used, how the contractor will ensure the subcontractors and/or authorized users will abide by data protection and security requirements, the end date of the contract and what happens to the PII when the contract ends, If and how parent, guardians, students, eligible students, teachers, or principals may challenge the accuracy of the PII collected, where the PII will be stored, described without compromising data security, and the security measures taken to protect the PII and mitigate security and privacy risks, and how the data will be protected using encryption while in motion at the rest. B, third-party contractors. The district will ensure that contracts with third-party contractors reflect the confidentiality of any student and/or teacher or principal PII, be maintained in accordance with federal and state laws and the district's data security and privacy policy. Each third-party contractor that will receive student data or teacher or principal data must, 1, adopt technology, safeguards, and practices that align with the NIST CSF. 2, comply with the district's data security and privacy policy and applicable laws impacting the district. 3, limit internal access to PII to only those employees or subcontractors that need access to provide the contracted services. 4, not use the PII for any purposes not explicitly authorized in its contract. 5, not disclose any PII to any other party without the prior written consent of the parent or eligible student, i.e. students who are 18 years or older. A, except for unauthorized representatives of the third-party contractor to the extent they are carrying out the contract. Or B, unless required by statute or court order and the third-party contractor provides notice of disclosure to the district unless expressly prohibited. 6, maintain reasonable administrative, technical, and physical safeguards to protect the security, confidentiality, and integrity of PII in its custody. 7, use encryption to protect PII in its custody. And 8, not sell, use, or disclose PII for any marketing or commercial purpose, facilitate its use or disclosure by others for marketing or commercial purpose, or permit another party to do so. Third-party contractors may release PII to subcontractors engaged to perform the contractor's obligations, but such subcontractors must abide by data protection obligations of state and federal law and the contract with the district. If the third-party contract has a breach of or unauthorized release of PII, it will be promptly notified the district in the most expedient way possible without unreasonable delay, but no more than 7 calendar days after the breach discovery. C, third-party contractors' data security and privacy plan. The district will ensure that contracts with all third-party contractors include the third-party contractor's data security and privacy plan. This plan must be accepted by the district. At a minimum, each plan will, 1, outline how the state, federal, and local data security and privacy contract requirements over the life of the contract will be met, consistent with its policy. 2, specify the administrative, operational, and technical safeguards and practices it has in place to protect PII. 3, demonstrate that it complies with all the requirements of the 8 NYCRR Section 121.3C, the Parents' Bill of Rights for data privacy and security. 4, specify how those who have access to student and/or teacher or principal data receive or will receive training on the federal and state laws governing confidentiality of such data prior to receiving access. 5, specify if the third-party contractor will utilize subcontractors and how it will manage those relationships and contracts to ensure personally identifiable information is protected. 6, specify how the third-party contractor will manage data security and privacy incidents that implicate personally identifiable information, including specifying any plans to identify breaches or unauthorized disclosures, and to promptly notify the district. 7, describe if, how, and when data will be returned to the district, transitioned to a successor contractor at the district's direction, deleted or destroyed by the third-party contractor when the contract is terminated or expires. D, training. The district will provide annual training on data privacy and security awareness to all employees who have access to student and teacher principal PII. E, reporting. Any breach of the district's information storage or computerized data which compromises the security, confidentiality, and integrity of student or teacher, principal, PII maintained by the district will be promptly reported to the Data Protection Officer, the Superintendent, and the Board of Education. F, notifications. The Data Protection Officer or Director of Technology will report every discovery or report of a breach or unauthorized release of student, teacher, or principal PII to the state's Chief Privacy Officer without unreasonable delay, but no more than 10 calendar days after such discovery. The district will notify affected parents, eligible students, teachers, and/or principals in the most expedient way possible and without unreasonable delay, but no more than 60 calendar days after discovery of a breach or unauthorized release of third-party contractor notification. However, if notification would interfere with an ongoing law enforcement investigation or cause further disclosure of PII by disclosing an unfixed security vulnerability, the district will notify parents, eligible students, teachers, and/or principals within 7 calendar days after the security vulnerability has been remedied or the risk of interference with the law enforcement investigation ends. The superintendent or director of technology, Data Protection Officer, will establish procedures to provide notification of a breach or unauthorized release of student, teacher, or principal PII, and establish and communicate to parents, eligible students, and district staff a process for filing complaints about breaches or unauthorized releases of student and teacher principal PII. For the purposes of this policy, a breach means the unauthorized acquisition, access, use, or disclosure of student, teacher, or principal PII as defined by Educational Law 2D, or any MVCSD sensitive or confidential data or a data system that stores that data by or to a person not authorized to acquire, access, use, or receive the data. State and federal laws require that affected individuals must be notified when there has been a breach or unauthorized disclosure of personally identifiable information. Upon receiving a report of a breach or unauthorized disclosure, Data Protection Officer, MVCSD's counsel, and other subject matter experts will determine which notification of affected individuals is required, and where required, effect notification in the most expedient way possible without unreasonable delay. Nothing in this policy shall be construed as a guarantee against or indemnity on the part of MVCSD for any breach or damages that may arise from a breach, directly or indirectly, whether such breach was intentional or unintentional, whether arising from a hacking, virus, malware, accident, or otherwise. 2, private information. Under State Technology Law 208. Private information is defined in State Technology Law 208 and includes certain types of information outlined in the accompanying regulation which would put an individual at risk for identity theft or permit access to private accounts. Private information does not include information that can lawfully be made available to the general public pursuant to federal or state law or regulation. Any breach of the district's information storage or computerized data which compromises the security, confidentiality, or integrity of private information maintained by the district must be promptly reported to the superintendent and the Board of Education. The board directs the superintendent of schools in accordance with appropriate business and technology personnel to establish regulations which identify and/or define the types of private information that is to be kept secure, include procedures to identify any breaches of security that result in the release of private information, and include procedures to notify persons affected by the security breach as required by law. Examples of determining factors. In determining whether information has been acquired or is reasonable believed to have been acquired by an authorized person or persons without valid authorization, the district may consider the following factors among others. Indications that the information is in the physical possession and control of an unauthorized person, such as lost or stolen computer or other device containing information, or indications that the information has been downloaded or copied, or indications that the information was used by an unauthorized person, such as fraudulent accounts opened or instances of identity theft reported. 3, employees' personal identifying information under Labor Law 203-D. Pursuant to Labor Law 203-D, the district will not communicate employees' personal identifying information to the general public. This includes social security number, home address or telephone number, personal email address, internet identification, name or password, parent's surname prior to marriage, and driver's license number. In addition, the district will protect employee social security numbers that such numbers will not be publicly posted or displayed, visibly printed on any ID badge, card, or time card, placed in files with unrestricted access, or used for occupational licensing purposes. Employees with access to such information will be notified of these prohibitions and their obligations. Cross-reference, 1120 district records, 5500 student records, 8630 computer resource and data management. Reference, State Technology Law 201-208, Labor Law 203-D, Educational Law 2-D. 8, NYCRR Part 121, Exhibit 8635-E, Parents' Bill of Rights for Student Data Privacy and Security. Adoption date, month, day, 2026. And that is the end. And Superintendent Strickland, please go back up there and give me the certificate.
I know that's right after those 6 pages. Thank you, Trustee Scott. Woo, boy. I think we need a break just. My goodness. Are there any questions? I'm afraid to ask. Okay. We will move on to policy number 3310, which is consolidated into 1120, which is public access to records, and that will be read by Trustee Brown.
First reading. It is a policy of the Board of Education. Sorry, guys. It is a policy of the Board of Education to inform members of the public about the administration and operation of the public schools in accordance with the Freedom of Information Law of the State of New York. The Superintendent of Schools will develop regulations to be adopted by the Board, ensuring compliance with the Freedom of Information Law and setting forth the procedures to be followed to obtain access to district records and submit such regulations to the Board for approval. Such regulations will address ensuring applicable confidentiality and security of district information, including the protection of student and teacher principal personally and identifiable information in conformance with state education law, Section 2-D, and Regulation 8 NYC-RR Part 121. The superintendent will designate with board approval a record access and records management officer pursuant to law. Retention and destruction of records. The board hereby adopts the record retention and disposition schedule LGS-1 issued pursuant to Article 57A of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law, which contains the legal minimum retention period for district records. In accordance with Article 57-A, the district will dispose of only those records described in the schedule after they have met the minimum retention period set forth in the schedule. The district will dispose of only those records that do not have sufficient administrative, fiscal, legal, or historical value to merit retention beyond the established legal minimum periods. The manner of destruction will be determined by the format of the record, i.e. paper, digital, etc. In addition, destruction will be appropriately documented. Employee notification of disciplinary record request. Public Office Law, Section 87, part of the Freedom of Information Law, FOIL requires 1, notification should be provided to both current and former employees based on court decisions implementing a similar law for law enforcement disciplinary records. 2, notification shall be provided after information has been released. 3, notification should be provided in writing so there is evidence of the district's compliance with the law. Regular mail or email is sufficient. 4, reasonable efforts to notify former employees should be made and efforts documented. The notice does not 5, the notice does not need to include a copy of the FOIA request or the actual records provided, but the district can do so. However, note that FOIA requests and responses themselves are district records subject to FOIA access rights. 6, the disciplinary records is not defined for this purpose. Public agencies could use the definition of law enforcement disciplinary records in Public Offices Law, Section 86-6. We have done so in this policy to the extent applicable to school districts. We believe that there is nothing in an employee's disciplinary record. The district would still need to notify the employee of the request after its response. We suggest including a time frame of when to provide the employee notice. As required by Public Office Law, Section 87, the district will notify current and former employees in writing that the district has responded to a Freedom of Information Law request for disciplinary records within 10 days working days after the district provides information in response to the request. For former employees, the district will send notification to the last known address or email address, and if current contact information cannot be found, the district will document its attempts. For purposes of this policy, the district defines disciplinary records as any record created in furtherance of a disciplinary proceeding, i.e. any investigation and subsequent hearing or disciplinary action conducted by the district, including but not limited to 1, the complaints, allegations, and charges against an employee; 2, the name of the employee complained of or charged; 3, the transcripts of any disciplinary hearing, including any exhibits introduced at such hearings; 4, the disposition of any disciplinary proceedings; and 5, the final written opinion of memorandum supporting the disposition and discipline imposed in court, including the district's complete factual findings and its analysis of the conduct and appropriate discipline of the employee. Litigation hold. The superintendent will establish procedures in the event that the school district is served with legal papers. The student will communicate with applicable parties, including the school attorney and the records management official, to ensure that when appropriate, a litigation hold is properly implemented. The litigation hold is intended to prevent the destruction or disposal of records that may need to be produced as part of discovery. It is the intention of the Board of Education to comply with the applicable rules and regulations regarding the production of necessary documents, data, files, etc. The board directs the superintendent to institute such procedures to implement this policy. The superintendent or designee, with assistance from the records management officer, is responsible for developing and disseminating department-specific retention schedules and guidance to staff as necessary to ensure adherence to this policy. Cross-reference: 5500 student records, 8630 computer resources and data management, 8635 information and data privacy, security, breach, and notification. Reference Public Office Law, Section 84, Freedom of Information Law, Education Law 2-D 2116, Arts and Cultural Affairs Law, Section 57.11, Arts and Cultural Affairs Law, Article 57-A, Local Government Records Law, Federal Rules of Civil Procedures, 1626, 8 NYCRR, Section 185.15, 8 NYCRR, Appendix L, Records Retention and Disposition Schedule LGS-1 for New York Local Government Records, Part 121, 21 NYCRR, Part 1401, New York State NYS Department of State, Committee on Open Government Advisory Opinions, OML-AO-19867, adoption date, month, day, 2026.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Are there any questions? We will move on to policy number 1925, interpreters for hearing impaired parents. That will be also read by Trustee Brown.
First reading. The Board of Education recognizes that those district parents with hearing impairments which prevent a meaningful participation in their child's educational program must be afforded an opportunity equal to that afforded other parents to participate in meetings or activities pertaining to the academic and/or disciplinary aspects of their child's education. Accordingly, and pursuant to law, the school district will provide an interpreter for hearing impaired parents for school-initiated academic and/or disciplinary meetings or activities, including but not limited to parent-teacher conferences, child study or building level team meetings, planning meetings with school counselors regarding educational progress, career planning, suspension hearings, or other conference with school officials relating to disciplinary actions. The school district will provide an interpreter for the hearing impaired parent if a written request for the service has been submitted to and received by the district within 10 working days prior to the scheduled meeting or activity. If an interpreter is unavailable, the district will then make other reasonable accommodations which are satisfactory to the parent: note taker, transcript, decoder, or telecommunication device for the deaf. These services will be made available by the district at no cost to the parents. The board directs the superintendent of schools to maintain a list of available interpreters and to develop procedures to notify parents of the availability of the interpreter services, the time limitations for requesting these services, and of the requirement to make other reasonable accommodations satisfactory to the parent should an interpreter should not be available. Hearing impaired parents are requested to submit the attached form to request accommodation of their disability. Reference American with Disabilities Act of 1990, 42 U.S.C. Section 12131-12134, Rehabilitation Act of 1973, 29 U.S.C. Section 794, Educational Law, Section 3230, 8 NYCRR, Section 100.2 AA, Rothschild versus Grothiller, 907 F 2D 286 2D circa 1990, adoption date, month, day, 2026.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we will move to policy number 4321.1, provision of special education services in the least restrictive environment. Do I have a volunteer to read? In-house counsel?
Excuse me. Provision of special education services in the least restrictive, policy number 4321.1. The Board of Education recognizes its responsibilities to ensure that students with disabilities eligible for special education programs and services under IDEA and Article 89 of the New York Education Law receive those services in the least restrictive environmental appropriate to meet their individual educational needs. Therefore, the district will not place students with disabilities in special classes or separate schools or otherwise remove them from the regular educational environment unless the nature or severity of their disability is such that their education cannot be achieved satisfactorily in regular classes, even with the use of supplementary aids and services. In addition, the district will provide special services or programs to enable students with disabilities to be involved in and progress in general curriculum to the extent appropriate to their needs. To fulfill its responsibilities to educating students with disabilities in the least restrictive environment, the district will implement the provisions of Section 200.6 of the Commissioner's Regulations. Furthermore, and pursuant to those provisions, students with disabilities placed together for purposes of receiving special education will be grouped by similarity of individual needs, including their range of academic achievement, functional performance, learning characteristics, social and physical development, and management needs. The superintendent will establish a process for ensuring that the CSE or CSE subcommittee chairperson, as appropriate, obtains an up-to-date copy of those provisions at the beginning of each school year and copies of any amendments that become effective during the school year. The board also recognized that the least restrictive environment requirements established by applicable law and regulations also extend to non-academic settings. Therefore, the district will provide students with disabilities the opportunity to participate with non-disabled students in school-sponsored co-curricular, extracurricular activities to the maximum extent appropriate to each individual student's needs. The district also will provide students with disabilities with supplementary aid and services, the CSE or CSE subcommittee, as applicable, determines to be appropriate and necessary for the students to participate in such activities referenced Individual Disability Education Law, IDA, 20 U.S.C. Section 1400, and 8 New York City Rules and Regulations, Section 200.2 B4 and 200.6.
Thank you. We will now read 4321.5, confidentiality and access to IEPs, IESPs, and SPs, and it will be read by Trustee Peterson.
Okay. Section 4000, instruction, title, confidentiality, and access to individualized education programs, individualized education services programs, and service plans. Code 4321.5, first reading. The Board of Education recognizes the importance of ensuring the confidentiality of personally identifiable data pertaining to a student with a disability. Personally identifiable data will not be disclosed by any school district, employee, or member of a CSE/CPSE to any person other than the parent of such student, organization, or agency unless the parent or guardian of the child provides written consent. There is a valid court order for such information or disclosure is permitted by law. This policy addresses sections 200.2, 200.4, and 200.16 of the regulations of the Commissioner of Education concerning the provision of copies of the individualized education programs, IEPs, IESPs, or SPs, prior to the implementation. The regulations clarify the format of the IEPs, the definition of other service providers, and the level of access which must be provided, ensuring that teachers and other service providers are provided with copies of a student's IEPs prior to the implementation of such IEP, ensuring the confidentiality of such IEP, and requiring that all individuals with IEP implementation responsibility, including teachers, related service providers, and other individuals such as paraprofessionals and other school support staff, be informed prior to the implementation of such IEPs of their responsibilities in relation to the implementation of a student's IEPs. This applies to both students and preschool students with disabilities. Personally identifiable data is defined in the Policy on Student Records 5500. The Board of Education, while acknowledging the confidentiality requirement, believes that in order for each student with disabilities to receive the full benefit of his/her individualized education program, IEP, individualized education services program, IESP, or service plan, SP, individuals responsible for implementing the program or plan must, prior to the implementation, fully understand the scope of their responsibility and the specific accommodations, modifications, and supports to be provided. Pursuant to revised regulations, all persons with responsibility for implementing a student's IEP, IESP, or SP must be informed of those responsibilities. In addition, teachers, related service providers, and other service providers who have responsibility must be given a copy of the IEP, IESP, or SP. Teaching aides, teaching assistants, and other providers who assist in implementing an IEP must give an opportunity to review and have ongoing access to a copy of the IEP. Section 1, IEP, IESP, or SP copies. At a CSE subcommittee, or CPSE meeting for each student, a determination will be made as to which general education teachers, special education teachers, related service providers, and other service providers have responsibility to implement the recommendations on the student's IEP, IESP, or SP. Other service providers. Means a representative of another public school district, charter school, BOCES program, child care institution, school, Special Act School District, state-supported school, approved private in-state or out-of-state school, and approved preschool provider where the student receives or will receive IEP, IESP, or SP services. The CSE Subcommittee and CPSE chairpersons shall ensure that a paper or electronic copy of each student's IEP, IESP, or SP is provided to each regular education teacher, special education teacher, related service provider, and/or service provider who is responsible for implementation of the program or plan. These individuals responsible for implementing an IEP, IESP, or SP shall, in turn, ensure that all paraprofessionals, teacher aides, and teacher assistants, and other providers responsible for assisting in implementation are given the opportunity to review their copy of the IEP, IESP, or SP prior to program implementation, as well as have ongoing access to such copies. Section 2, notification of responsibilities. In addition to disseminating copies of a student's IEP, IESP, or SP, CSE, CSE Subcommittee, and CPSE Chairpersons must designate one or more professional employees of the district with knowledge of the student's disability and program to inform each regular education teacher, special education teacher, related service provider, other service provider, paraprofessional, and other provider, and support staff of his or her responsibility to provide specific accommodations, program modifications, supports, and/or services for the student in accordance with the IEP, IESP, or SP. In selecting the professional staff persons, the chairperson could select him/herself for this responsibility, another administrator or a teacher, related service provider, or other professional as appropriate. Section 3, confidentiality. All copies of a student's IEP, IESP, or SP provided or made accessible under this policy must remain confidential and shall not be disclosed to any person except in accordance with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA. To ensure such confidentiality, the CSE and CPSC chairpersons shall include with each IEP, IESP, or SP copy provided or made accessible under this policy, a copy of the board's policy on student records, policy 5500. All IEP, IESP, or SP copies must remain in a secure location on school grounds at all times. If IEP copies are transmitted and/or provided electronically, security systems, for example, password protect a file or folder, must be implemented to prevent unauthorized internal and external access to the student's IEP, IESP, or SP. Section 4, documentation. The district shall have in place a means to document the district's compliance with board policy by obtaining the signature of each person who receives an IEP, views an IEP, or is informed of his or her IEP responsibilities. The district has a record of its proof of compliance with law and board policy. The designated professional employees defined in Section 2 above shall obtain the signature of each person covered by this policy indicating he or she, 1, has received either a copy of the student's IEP, IESP, or SP, or the opportunity to review the IEP, IESP, or SP prior to its implementation as required under state law and regulation. 2, has been informed of their responsibilities for implementation. 3, has knowledge of where the IEP, IESP, or SP is to be maintained. And 4, has an understanding of the confidentiality requirements. At the end of the school year or whenever the IEP has been revised, the CSE and CPSE chairperson shall collect all IEP copies provided under his policy and destroy them. Cross-reference 4321, programs with students with disabilities under IDEA and Article 89, 5500, student records, reference individuals with disabilities Education Act, IDEA 20, USC, section 1400, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA 20 USC, Section 1232, 34 CFR Part 99, Education Law, Section 4402, parentheses 7, 8 NYCRR, Section 200.2, B 11, 200.4, E3, 200.16, E6, New York State Education Department, Vocational Educational Services with Individuals with Disabilities, VESID, SED guidance document, providing copies of the IEPs for students with disabilities, May 13, 2003. Website, http://www.p12nysed.gov/special-ed/policy/chap408 final.htm, adoption date, month date, 2026. Ms. Iwin, remember in 1987 when you told me I read too fast? Look where it's paying off.
Well, thank you. There's a lot of reading going on around here tonight. Okay. Any questions, comments? We will move on to policy 4321.13, preschool students with disabilities. That would be read by Trustee McDonough.
All right, we're almost there. Preschool special education. The Board of Education recognizes the value of early intervention to address the needs of preschool children with disabilities. The board further recognizes its responsibility to ensure that all resident preschool children with disabilities have the opportunity to participate in preschool programs approved by the Commissioner of Education from which they may benefit educationally. The board authorizes the superintendent of schools to establish administrative practices and procedures which shall include 1, locating, identifying, evaluating, referring, and placing all preschool children, generally ages 3 and 4, with disabilities. The register of children eligible to attend a preschool program is to be determined and revised annually by the Committee of on Preschool Special Education, CPSE. 2, ensuring that the parents, guardians of preschool-age children with disabilities have received and understand the request for consent for evaluation of their child. 3, developing an individualized education program, IEP, for each preschool-age child with a disability. 4, appointing and training appropriately qualified personnel, including the members of the CPSE. 5, maintaining lists of impartial hearing officers and of state education department approved special education programs within the county and adjacent counties in which the district is located. 6, preparing and keeping on file summary reports of student data, including the number of preschool students with disabilities served, as well as students referred but not served, and the reasons why they are not served. And 7, reporting to the State Education Department the data on preschool children with disabilities as required on a form prescribed by the Commissioner. The duties described above will be carried out within the time frame established by statute and regulation. The Board of Education hereby establishes the CPSE as required under the education law. Its responsibilities will include the evaluation and recommendation of placement in appropriate approved programs and the provision of appropriate special education programs and services for each preschool child with a disability. The CPSE shall review at least annually the status of each preschool child with a disability. It is ultimately the responsibility of the board to arrange for the appropriate approved preschool program and services for the district's children. Should the board disagree with the CPSE's recommendation, it shall send the recommendation back to the CPSE so that they may schedule a timely meeting to review the board's concerns and to revise the IEP as deemed appropriate. In the event that a parent guardian files a due process complaint, a meeting must be convened between the parent guardian and representatives of the district to try and resolve the complaint within 15 days of receiving the notice and before the initiation of an impartial hearing. Parents, guardians, and the district will jointly determine who should be present at the meeting. If an agreement cannot be reached, parents, guardians shall be offered mediation to resolve complaints regarding the education of preschool children with disabilities. At the same time, notice that the availability of an impartial hearing is provided. The CPSE shall make an annual report on the status of each preschool child with a disability and report on the adequacy of preschool special education programs and services to the board. The board directs the superintendent to develop and maintain a plan which incorporates information concerning the provision of services of preschool children with disabilities pursuant to the regulation of the Commissioner of Education.
Okay, and just to note that there are cross-references to other.
Do you want me to read those? I didn't. Sure. Cross-references, 4321, Programs for Students with Disabilities, 4321.3, Allocation of Space for Special Education Programs, 4321.4, Independent Educational Evaluations, 4321.5, Confidential IEP Distribution, 4321.8, Hearing Officer Appointment and Compensation, 4321.14, Special Education Personnel, Reference Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, 20 U.S.C. 1400, 34 CFR, Section 300.12, 300.503, Education Law, Section 4410, 8 MYCRR, Part 200, 201.2, 200.5, 200.16.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? We will move on to policy 4321. I believe that that will be read by trustees Brown and Peterson due to the length. Even though trustee Scott, you didn't get any help, I just need to note that, right? Okay. And it will be for programs for students with disabilities under IDEA and Article 89.
Trustee Scott has big muscles, so he can read all those pages. This policy reflects the New York State Education Department's formal opinion of Council Number 242, July 6, 23, regarding the applicability of a Second Circuit Court ruling, AR versus Connecticut State Board of Education, to school districts in New York State. The opinion in court case clarified that the Federal Individuals with Disabilities Act, IDEA, requires districts to provide special education services to students with disabilities until their 22nd birthday if they have not received a high school diploma. New York State Education Law, Section 4402, requires such services be provided until the end of the school year in which the student turns 21. Students with birthdays in July and August could until the end of the summer program. The Board of Education makes available a free, appropriate public education to all students with disabilities who reside within its district and are eligible for special education and related services under the Individuals with Disability Education Act and Article 89 of New York's educational law and their implementing regulations. Special education and related services will be provided to resident eligible students with disabilities in conformity with their individualized education program, IEP, and in the least restrictive environment appropriate to meet their individual educational needs. Special education services or programs will be designed to enable students with disabilities to be involved in and progress in a general education curriculum to the extent appropriate to their needs. The board also makes available special education and related services to eligible students with disabilities parentally placed in a non-public school located within the district, regardless of whether they are residents of the district. However, this obligation does not extend to resident students with disabilities who are placed by their parents in a non-public school within district boundaries because of a disagreement between the parents and the school district over the provision of a free, appropriate public education. Non-public school students with disabilities who are not district residents but who reside within New York State will be provided programs and services in accordance with their Individualized Education Services Program, IESP. Non-public school students with disabilities who reside out of state will be provided services in accordance with their service plans, SP, refer to policy 4321.1. Programs and services for parentally placed non-public school students with disabilities under the IDEA and New York Education's Law, Article 89, for more guidance on this topic. In addition to the maximum extent appropriate to their individual needs, eligible students with disabilities residing within the district and attending the district's public schools will be entitled to participate in schools' district academic, co-curricular, and extracurricular activities available to all other students enrolled in the district's public schools. School co-curricular and extracurricular activities may include athletics, transportation, recreational activities, school-sponsored special interest groups or clubs, and referrals to agencies that provide assistance to individuals with disabilities in the employment of students, including both employment by the school's district and assistance in making outside employment available. In providing a free, appropriate public education to students with disabilities eligible under the IDEA and Article 89, the board would afford the students and their parents the procedural safeguard rights they are entitled to under applicable law and regulations. The board also will provide them with notice of such rights as required by law and regulations using the form prescribed by the Commissioner of Education. For the purpose of this policy and other related to the provisions of services to eligible students with disabilities and consistent with applicable law and regulation, the word parent means birth or adoptive parent, a legally appointed guardian, generally authorized to act as a child's parent or authorized to make educational decisions for the child. A person in parental relationship to the child as defined in Section 32(112) of the Educational Law, an individual designated as a person in parental relation pursuant to Title 15-A of the General Obligation Law, including an individual so designated who is acting in the place of a birth or adoptive parent, including a grandparent, step-parent, or other relative with whom the child resides, or a surrogate parent who has been appointed in accordance with Commissioner's regulations. Eligible students with disabilities will be entitled to special education and related services until their 22nd birthday. Formal opinion of Council Number 242, until the end of the school year in which they turn 22 years old, or until they receive a local high school or regent diploma, whichever comes first. The decision regarding special education and related services continuing until the 22nd birthday or until the end of the school year in which a student turns 22 years old will be part of a larger discussion between schools and families and further upon the recommendation of the CSE concerning students' transition from school to post-school activities. The district will always consider the legal implications of each case. Students with disabilities may not be required to take medication as a condition for receiving a free, appropriate public education. To ensure the provisions of a free, appropriate public education to all eligible students with disabilities, 1, the board will adopt and maintain a district special education service plan in conformance with Commissioner's Regulations 8 NYC RR 200.2. The plan will be available for public inspection and review by the Commissioner of Education. 2, school district staff will take steps to locate, identify, evaluate, and maintain information about all children with disabilities within the district, including homeless children and children who are wards of the state, and children attending non-public schools within the district, including religious schools, who are in need of special education. 3, the district will establish a plan and practice for implementing school-wide approaches and intervention in order to remediate a student's performance prior to referral for special education services. The district will provide general education support service, instructional modifications, and/or alternative program options to address a student's performance before referring the student to the Committee on Special Education, CSE. The Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction of District MTSS Administration Team will develop, implement, and evaluate pre-referral intervention strategies. 4321.2, school-wide pre-referral approaches and interventions. 4, school district staff will initiate a request for evaluation of a student who has not made adequate progress after an appropriate period of time when provided instruction under a response to intervention program. In making the request, the staff person will describe in writing intervention services, program, and methodologies used to remediate the student's performance prior to referral. In addition, the extent of the parental contact will be described as well. 5, the board will appoint a Committee on Special Education, CSE, and, as appropriate, CSE subcommittees to assure the timely identification, evaluation, and placement of eligible students with disabilities. The board will arrange for special education programs and services based upon a recommendation of the CSE or CSE subcommittee. 7, the superintendent will establish a plan for the recruitment, hiring, and retention of staff appropriately and adequately prepared to meet the needs of students with disabilities, including but not limited to highly qualified special education teachers. 8, the superintendent will establish a comprehensive professional development plan designated to ensure that personnel necessary to carry out IDEA and Article 89 possesses the skills and knowledge required to meet the needs of students with disabilities. 9, the superintendent will establish a process for ensuring that the district staff understand the right of students with disabilities to access and participate in the same academic, co-curricular, and extracurricular programs and activities as all other students enrolled in the district's public school to the maximum extent appropriate to their individual needs. Locate and identify students with disabilities. The district will conduct an annual census to locate and identify all students with disabilities who reside in the district and establish a register of such students who are entitled to attend the public school of the district during the next school year, including students with disabilities who are homeless or wards of the state. The census will be conducted and the registry maintained in accordance with the requirements established in the Commissioner's regulations. The superintendent will determine what other activities might be appropriate to help locate and identify students with disabilities. They may include, but not limited to, the mailing of letters to all district residents regarding the availability of special education programs and services and their right to access such services, and/or the publication of a similar notice in school newsletters and other publications. Refer to Policy 4321.10, Programs and Services for Paternally Placed Non-Public School Students with Disabilities under the IDEA and New York Education Law, Article 89, for more information regarding how to locate and identify non-public school students with disabilities. Evaluation of students with disabilities. To initially determine the student's eligibility for a free appropriate public education under the IDEA and Article 89, the district will conduct a full evaluation of the student in accordance within legally prescribed timelines as set forth in Commissioner's regulations. The initial evaluation will include at least a physical examination, an individual psychological evaluation unless the school psychologist determines it unnecessary, a social history, an observation of the student and the student's learning environment to document the student's academic performance and behavior in the area of difficulty, and other appropriate assessments of evaluation, including a functional behavioral assessment for students whose behavior impedes their learning or that of others, to ascertain the physical, mental, behavioral, and emotional factors that contribute to the suspected disabilities. Once the student has been determined eligible to receive a free, appropriate public education, the district will reevaluate the student with a disability whenever the student's parents request a reevaluation, and when the district determines that the educational and related services needs, including improved academic achievement and functional performance of the child, warrants a reevaluation. However, a reevaluation must take place at least once every 3 years unless the student's parent and the district agrees it is unnecessary.
Parental consent for student evaluations. Before conducting any type of evaluation, district staff will take steps to obtain written informed consent from a student's parent as required by applicable law and regulations. They also will keep a detailed record of those attempts and their results, including phone calls and correspondence, visits to the parent's home, and any responses received. 1. If a parent refuses to give consent for an initial evaluation or fails to respond to such a request, the parent will be given the opportunity to attend an informal conference and ask questions about the proposed evaluation. Unless the referral for evaluation is withdrawn, if the parent continues to withhold consent, the board will commence due process proceedings to conduct an initial evaluation without parental consent within the timelines established in Commissioner's regulations. 2. If a parent refuses to give consent for a reevaluation or fails to respond to such a request, district staff will proceed with the reevaluation without parental consent if it has engaged in documented reasonable efforts to obtain such consent and the parent has failed to respond. If the district cannot document its efforts to obtain consent, the board will commence due process proceedings to conduct a reevaluation without parental consent. 3. If district staff is unable to obtain consent for the initial evaluation or reevaluation of a homeschooled or parentally placed non-public school student, the board will not commence due process proceedings to conduct the evaluation without parental consent and will consider the student as not eligible for special education. Conduct of evaluations. In conducting evaluations of students with disabilities, the district will use a variety of assessment tools and strategies, including parent-provided information, to gather relevant functional, developmental, and academic information for determining a student's eligibility for special education and related services, and the content of the student's individualized education program or individualized education services program or services plan in the case of non-public school students with disabilities, including information related to enabling the student to be involved in and progress in the general education curriculum. The district also will assess a student in all areas of suspected disability, and the assessment and other evaluation used will not be discriminatory or on a racial or cultural basis. In addition, students will be assessed in the language and form most likely to yield accurate information on what the student actually knows and can do academically, developmentally, and functionally unless it is not feasible to do so. In the case of students suspected of having a specific learning disability, the district will follow the procedures established in Commissioner's regulations. The district will notify a student's parent or of any determination that no additional data is needed and the reasons for such a determination. It will also inform parents of their right to request an assessment notwithstanding determination. Eligibility determination. The CSE or CSE subcommittee will determine whether a student is eligible for special education and related services under the IDEA in Article 89, as well as the student's educational needs. The CSE or CSE subcommittee may not determine that a student is eligible for special education and related services if the determining factor is lack of appropriate instruction in the essential components of reading, including phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary development, reading fluency, including oral reading skills, and reading comprehension strategies, or lack of appropriate instruction in math or limited English proficiency. Committee on Special Education. The members of the CSE and CSE subcommittees will include those individuals identified in applicable law and regulations, and their attendance at CSE and CSE subcommittee meetings will be required except as otherwise provided in law and regulations. The parent of a student with disability is one of the mandated CSE and CSE subcommittee members, and as such has a right to participate in CSE and CSE subcommittee meetings concerning the identification, evaluation, educational placement, and the provision of a free appropriate public education to their child. District staff will take steps to ensure that parents' participation in accordance with the following. 1. CSE and CSE subcommittee meetings will be scheduled at a time and place that is mutually agreeable to the parent and the district. 2. The parent will be given at least 5 days' notice of the time and place of a CSE or CSE subcommittee meeting, except as otherwise provided in law and regulation, along with notice of the purpose of the meeting, those who will attend, including name and title, and the parent's right to be accompanied to the meeting by persons the parent considers to have knowledge and special expertise about their child. 3. The parent and the district may agree to use alternative means of participation at CSE meetings, such as video conferences or telephone conference calls. 4. District staff will take any action necessary to ensure that the parent understands the proceedings at CSE meetings, including arranging for an interpreter for deaf parents or parents whose native language is other than English. The CSE or CSE subcommittees may meet with a student's parent only if district staff has been unable to obtain either parent's participation and has a record of its attempts to arrange a mutually agreed upon time and place. Similarly, the CSE or CSE subcommittee may make a decision without the involvement of the student's parent only if district staff has been unable to obtain parental participation, even through the use of alternative means of participation, and has a record of its attempts to ensure parental involvement. Provision of services. The board will arrange for appropriate special education and related services recommended by the CSE or CSE subcommittee within 60 days of the district's receipt of parental consent to evaluate a student not previously identified as a student with a disability, or within 60 school days of referral for review of a student with a disability, except as otherwise provided in law and regulations. All staff responsible for the implementation of a student's individualized education program or an individualized education services program or services plan in the case of a parentally placed non-public school students with disabilities will be provided information regarding those responsibilities. Refer to policies 4321.5 for more information on this topic. Parental consent for the provision of services. The board acknowledges that parental consent for initial evaluation does not constitute consent for placement of the provision of special education and related services. Therefore, district staff will take steps to obtain written informed consent for the initial provision of special education and related services to an eligible student. The board will be precluded by applicable law and regulations from commencing due process proceedings to override the parent's refusal to provide such consent or override the parent's failure to respond to such requests. Transition service and diploma credential options. In accordance with law and regulation, the board will ensure the provision of transition services, which are a coordinated set of activities for students with disabilities that facilitates movement from school to post-school activities, which may include but are not limited to post-secondary education, vocational education, integrated employment, continuing and adult education, adult services, independent living, or community participation. At age 15 or younger, if appropriate, the student's IEP will include a statement of transition service needs and will include undertaking activities in the following areas: instruction, related services, community experiences, the development of employment and other post-school adult living objectives, and, when appropriate, acquisition of daily living skills and provision of a functional vocational evaluation. In developing the plan for transition services, the students and parents will be made aware of the range of diploma and credential options available and the requirements associated with each option. One of the best resources available to school districts for understanding the overall and specific school district responsibilities in providing special education programs and services is the website maintained by the State Education Department's Office of Special Education. The address for the website is http://www.p12.nyse.gov/special ed, cross-reference 1900, parental involvement, Title I, 4000, student learning objectives and district instructional goals, 4773, diploma and credential options for students with disabilities, 5500, student records, 6700, purchasing, 9700, staff development, reference the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA 20 USC, Section 1400, 34 CFR Part 300, Education Law, Article 89, Section 4401, 8 NYCRR Part 200, AR verse Connecticut State Board of Education, 5 F 4th 155 2021, formal opinion of council number 242, 7/6/2023, NYSED adoption date.
Wow, thank you. That concludes the reading of the first reading for policies 5710, 4311.1, 101, 4321.12, 8113, 8635, 3110, 1925, 3310, which is now consolidated to 1120, 1925, 4321.1, 4321.5, 4321.13, and 4321. I would like to ask for a motion to authorize to waive the second and third readings for policies 5710, 4311.1, 101, 4321.12, 8113, 8635, 3310 consolidated to 1120, 1925, 4321.1, 4321.5, 4321.13, and 4321, and immediately adopt. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any
Sorry,
discussion?
Who was first? I didn't, oh, okay.
I think everybody was first.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you for your time, your patience for that. That was, after all that, I don't know if we have any committee reports or board comments, but I would like to hear from student, our ex officio student Odoro, if you have anything that you'd like to share with us, and then I will go to the trustees for their reports if they have any, or comments.
Well, good evening, board. After the reading, I did have time to think, long time to think, I'll say that. Trustee Mitchell definitely saw me munching or something before coming here, so I'll just say that. I know. But I was going to say something earlier about what's called, which the policy already told me about, policy 8113, which is the one about the street meet. Yes, thank you. Earlier, I think around Monday, I saw a student that came to the office to cool down, basically because how extreme like the heat is. Most of the classes I went, and afterwards I went to most of the classes. Most of the classes already followed the protocol, put off the lights, basically open the doors and open the windows and basically every single thing. By the end of the day, most of the classes were still hot and ranging around still 90 degrees and they're boiling. I could say that I definitely put the water in the classroom and I didn't see it afterwards. I thought someone stole it, but it was the weather. But other than that, that's all my only concern that has really been brought up to me as a student. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other reports? Trustee Peterson well, I'll let you read what that is.
So last night, I am honored to be a member of the Mount Vernon Council of PTAs, and last night we had our Westchester East Putnam region, also known as WEPR PTA. The Mount Vernon Council of PTAs was honored by them for being the best of the best for the work that all of us did last year during the reorganization and getting parents involved and, speaking with senators and everything. So I am honored to to volunteer alongside 5 amazing ladies, our president, Michelle Real, our Vice President, Janine the Fabulous Fertil, our Secretary, Latoya Anderson, our Treasurer, Jerry Ann Alvarenga Grant, and our corresponding Secretary, Cassandra Laurent. And we put in a lot of work behind the scenes, and we love it. We enjoy volunteering for this district, and so it was nice last night to be recognized in front of all the other PTAs in the county. And also, this Friday is the deadline for the Edith Kaplan Scholarship, so make sure, counselors, parents, are you watching? Make sure your students get that in by this Friday, May 22nd. Thanks.
All right, congratulations. And I must say that we know we have the best PTA council in Westchester because we know how hard you work. And I tell you, I always say this, the Edith Kaplan Gala is something that nobody ever wants to miss because it is a lot of fun. The recognition that you do for our staff and the scholarships that you provide for our students really speaks to the service and the commitment that you have to this community. So again, I would like to thank you and acknowledge that. Do we have any other reports? Do we have any board comments from trustees? I guess y'all tired of talking. Trustee McDonough?
Just one quick comment. I want to thank you guys for the massive upgrade here. This mic and this, was this your wife Mr. Smith, these are really cool, really sweet.
The succulents, yes.
the
I didn't.
succulents.
I was waiting for someone to
Yeah.
tell us
so,
what
Yeah, these are very, very cool.
they're from. Who are they from?
Jolene's
They're
wife.
from Joe. They're from your wife. Oh well, please, thank you so very much. I was waiting for someone to tell us why we received these beautiful these. And I love owls. They are my favorite. Superintendent Strickland.
Thank you for acknowledging that, Trustee McDonough, about the upgrade. I do want you all to be aware that the devices that are in front of you have been sitting in a closet for 2 years, waiting for installation. Upon me finding out, I said we need to get this done immediately, and I will say that the technology department delivered, as well as our videographer, Mike Thompson. They tested it all day, and as you could see, I think we only had one small little double echo from Mr. Lynn, but there were 2 of him though. So we didn't have any mistakes this evening, but I do want to honestly thank them for what they've done. Yeah. And it's all about
No
accountability.
wires. No
wires.
wires. Love it. No wires. We don't have to pull them out of the cradle. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else before I go to Trustee Brown?
I am going to ask Dr. Wilkins to give us an update on the appraisal of that highly contentious painting. We want some information on. Thank you.
I promised 2 weeks ago that I would have some information, and Dr. Middleton, Trustee Middleton, and Trustee Marable gave me the name of the Mount Vernon historian, Dr. Spruill. He was wonderful. Great conversation with him for about 45 minutes. I was intrigued, but he has connected with our appraiser, and so I'm just now waiting for the appraisal to come through. The 2 of them have connected. They want the name of the address and who it goes to, so we're now just waiting. So
Okay.
it should be hopefully any day.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Vice President Mitchell.
All right, so, oh, that's nice. So, I'm going to shout out Mike Thompson right now for a hot sec, because we've been talking about these mics for this room. I got emails going back to 20-something. So this is a huge thing that I can sit here and talk, and we're not passing mics around like it's a rap song from '92. I'm not on stage with 13 people with one mic. So I just want to say thank you, Mike Thompson, for how you helped to lead this. I did the best I could to tag in, but you did your thing, man. And the technology department for making it happen. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So I also want to shout out today. So of course we all know that today's the vote today. I want to really thank every every teacher, staff member who showed love and support for everybody that was running today. We had teachers out there stopping by, giving us water and things like that. But I really want to also thank the PTA Council for putting together a really sharp, strong forum that I believe really gave the candidates the ability to showcase not only their passion, but just how qualified they are for these trustees' seats. So I just want to shout out the PTA Council for that as well. All right. And I'm gonna shout out Joe Lynn's wife also, because these are really cool. Like, not one of these pots matches another. I think they're all different. So thanks, Joe Lynn's wife. Thank you very much.
All right. Anything else? Okay. The polls close in 10 minutes, so you still have an opportunity to run to a poll if you have not done so. At this moment, we will recess until we have the results of the budget vote and the trustee election. So while we're doing that, I need a motion to recess pending the declaration, pending the results of the 2026 budget vote and trustee election. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
We are now in recess, and we will reconvene back to this room after the results have been tallied. I believe will they show them on the board? Okay, so, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I would like to entertain a motion to reconvene from recess. It's been moved and properly seconded that we reconvene from recess. Those in favor? Those opposed? Abstentions? We are now back in session. May I ask our clerk to read the votes for the budget and the trustee election?
Good evening. So I'd like to certify the budget and their election vote of the 3 board trustee candidates and the 1 library candidate. The 3 highest vote getters will serve a full term of 3 years, starting July 1st, 2026, ending June 30th, 2029. I'd like to certify that the budget has failed. We had 818 yes votes and 919 no votes. Carlene Evans is the top vote getter with 906 votes. Stephen Vasquez, 875 votes, and Lynn Middleton, 875 votes. For the library, the top vote getter will serve a term of 5 years, starting July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2031. The top vote getter is Jonathan Davis with 926 votes.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to accept the results of the 2026-2027 annual budget vote and trustee election.
Motion.
I have a first and a second to accept the results of the 2026-2027 annual budget vote and trustee election. May I have
All in
those
favor?
in favor?
Any
Those
op-
opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Congratulations to each and every winner. And it is my deepest regret that we did not pass the vote for the budget. We do know that we need to be able to provide services and programs for our children, so I'm sure that the superintendent will come up with a plan to see what we are going to do, what next steps are. So I will wait to hear from him at a next time. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion. If there, for the good of your order, is there anything else anyone has they want to lay on the table? Okay. If not, then I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Any opposed? All in favor? Abstain? We are now adjourned.